name. I mean, he's a good-looking chap from Wales who brings some international attention with him. And so I don't know. That's kind of an interesting roster spot right there at the end of the running back position battle. And do you need 4? That's the other question. I mean, the Chiefs have rolled with 3 at times as well. So probably too early for Carson Steele, but obviously a great showing for him. And this is the kind of thing you want. You want to get an opportunity in these games. You want to make the most of it and open people's eyes. And Andy Reid, at the end of the night, he said that 2 guys stood out to him most, jumped out to him after the game. That was Carson Steele, the fullback, and it was Jaden Hicks, the safety on defense, the rookie 4th rounder for the Chiefs as well. So that's the kind of list you want to be on if you're one of these rookies trying to make the team. And Carson Steele, that was a good impression, a good showing for him. To catch the coach's eye in this one, it's going to get him a lot more chances.
Anything else that perhaps stood out for you, or the things that you were looking for going in that either proved themselves to play out or not?
No, I mean, I would just say we talk about kind of the few battles that the Chiefs have at all these positions. The end of the wide receiver room became more interesting, obviously, with Hollywood Brown not going to be in there.
Right.
We saw Sky Moore run a bunch with the first team. I know there's been kind of some questions out there about him. I mean, it would just be a shock to me if the Chiefs moved on from him. He's getting first-string reps, and he's going to get a lot more with Hollywood Brown out. So I think he's a lock for the roster at this point. But on the back end there, one guy who's been emerging lately who looked like he was probably going to get cut earlier in training camp was Justin Ross. But this past week, he's made a bunch of big catches at training camp, has moved up the same way, kind of like Carson Steele did, up the depth chart. And he made another sideline catch here in this game against Jacksonville. So, again, continue to watch him and see where this thing goes. The Chiefs have a lot of bodies still at the end of that kind of pecking order there when you talk about Cole Hardman, Justin Watson, Nico Remigio. They've got a lot of potential guys they can go to. So if Justin Ross can continue to produce, they need to see that from him, because at this point it's kind of a territory where you need to show you can do that, or you are very much leaving yourself on the roster bubble.
And last week in St. Joe, anything in particular we're looking at? Maybe guys returning. Kadarius Toney's got to get back on the field. What kind of things do you think will be important in this last week of camp up there?
Yeah, absolutely. Kadarius Toney. Andy Reid's made no bones about it up there, just kind of saying you're missing things if you're not in there. And it's been an ankle, it's been a back, it's been a lot of things with Kadarius Toney over time. And he's another guy that if he cannot get on the field, cannot show himself, it's definitely a cut candidate at this point, just because you need somebody reliable and you need somebody to be able to be trusted upon. And he has not been that for the Chiefs in the years that he's been with the Chiefs since he got traded from the New York Giants. You mentioned it, just so many bodies coming back. Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, Nick Bolton. Obviously, the defense will look a lot different if Nick Bolton's not in there. Chris Jones seems to be battling very, very minor stuff, so I expect him to get back out there. But yeah, they could get a lot healthier before the regular season and make you feel a lot better about that first Ravens game if you knew that these starter types and these star types, to be frank, the Bolton and Jones of the world are able to go week 1 and be full go. So getting those guys back would be an important thing. And then continuing to watch some of these position battles. Like I said, the end of the receiver room, that is still very much to be determined with these Chiefs.
Jesse, great update as always. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for taking some time out, and enjoy the last week of St. Joe and then escaping there.
I appreciate it, Danny. Thanks.
All right, Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star getting us updated on preseason game number 1 and the rest of the news from the Kansas City Chiefs. We've got the rest of the weekend story, including pennant race baseball with the Royals and a whole lot more. It's coming up next on Monday Musings. Danny and Friends Sports Wrap. It's presented by ASFCA.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
It's always great to get an update from Dr. Brad Woodall from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 8 locations all around Kansas City, including the newest one in Raytown.
We are very excited to join the Raytown community. We just took over for Dr. David Frey, who retired and has then shared all of his patients with us to take great care of.
They do it all year round, and that means in the fall as well, when people get back to raking leaves and participating in fall sports, all those kinds of things, right?
Back to school means back for fun. Full backpack, we can help as your chiropractor. If you're starting fall sports, we want to make sure you have that physical, and we want to make sure you're in great shape. And if injuries happen, we've got your back.
And you've got it all around Kansas City at 8 different locations for Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Visit asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny. We're here at the 23rd Street Brewery with Matt Llewellyn. And Matt, basketball's over, football's still a few months away, but there's always fun to be had at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Absolutely. We've always got something going on here. The games are always going on. It's a great place to come enjoy everything out on the patio. Beautiful scenery out there. Great beer. I've got a great brewer, great food. It's always fun here at the brewery.
And the atmosphere is great and friendly and warm, too.
We always want to make sure you're a lot happier when you leave than you were when you came in.
Always fun here at the 23rd Street Brewery at 23rd and Castle. Make sure to come by when you're in Lawrence. If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business to Kansas City's #1 variety podcast, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you. Welcome back. Our thanks to Jesse Newell for catching us up on the Kansas City Chiefs. And, of course, they wind things down, as noted, at St. Joe this week. And then it'll be another preseason game, probably a little less participation by the regulars. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe some injured players will be coming back. And it's time now to turn to baseball because the Kansas City Royals are in playoff position with 44 games remaining. They have a 2.5-game lead in the wild card over the Mariners, 3 over the Red Sox, who were swept over the weekend by the Astros. The Mariners and the Astros have started to play better, so whatever team is not in first at the AL West at that moment, and it's Houston right now, who's up by a mere percentage points over Seattle, is the first wild card trailer. Red Sox right behind. Royals have dropped 4 of their last 7, but they had a long winning streak before that. Generally have played good baseball for quite a while now. 12 games over 500. I'm kind of the feeling that 500 baseball the rest of the way might be good enough to get it done. That may not be the case because they'll be playing teams that maybe catch up with some ground in that particular regard. But if they play 500, it means they'll be beating some of those teams. So it'll be very intriguing. A lot of head-to-head matchups, and it starts with the Minnesota Twins this week for a 3-game series. The Royals pitching is set up much better than the Twins are. They have 2 TBAs that are listed right now tonight, and the Royals have their big 3 all lined up in order, starting with Brady Singer tonight in a matchup with Pablo Lopez. So it's going to be exciting baseball the rest of the way. 44 games remaining. The Royals, if they got red hot, they could basically try and chase down the Yankees or the Orioles for the first wild card spot. The Twins are right ahead of them by just a half game in one wild card spot. It's a really, really cool situation. The bats have warmed up a little bit for the Royals. Now, of course, they've been a much better team all season long at home, but they've played a little bit better on the road of late. That's been keyed by better performance on the road by Bobby Witt Jr., who, of course, has been out of this world. But despite a lackluster series against the Cardinals, Vinny Pasquantino has been going well. Some other guys have started to chip in and do a little bit better. So this should be very, very interesting. And I guess the biggest question is whether some of the pitchers who are basically reaching an innings threshold that they've never had before as a starting pitcher, particularly in Seth Lugo's case, and young pitchers like Reagans and Singer, they're sort of in uncharted territory. That's another big part of what's going to go on as far as the Royals are concerned. So really, really fun baseball. Yes, the Chiefs rule the roost because they're 2-time defending champions, but they're playing practice games, and these are for real, starting for tonight in Minnesota. Very, very cool situation for the Kansas City Royals. Their fans who showed up in big numbers, although there were a lot of Cardinals fans there over the weekend, are going to have some fun in August. And yes, seemingly guaranteed into September, and a pennant race for the Kansas City Royals. Monday is also the day we always do our baseball roundup, and it basically involves the Royals now a lot in the American League, with the Orioles and the Yankees tied for first in the American League East. Both teams have been kind of playing mediocre baseball of late. They've been trading first place back and forth. The Orioles had the lead until they lost on Sunday. Teams are just under the 600 mark threshold, and the fact that they haven't played great for quite a while, neither the Orioles or the Yankees, good but not great, means that, as I mentioned, that has kept the Royals in the mix for really any of the wild card spots. Red Sox trail in the East big time, but they're one of the teams trying to run down the Royals. The Tampa Bay Rays somehow, some way, keep cockroaching their way to staying relevant. They're over 500 and are another team to watch. A couple of the other teams have just kind of, who were on the periphery, like the Blue Jays and the Tigers, have started to lose enough games that they probably are not factors. Blue Jays bringing up the rear in the American League East. In the Central, the Guardians had a long losing streak, 7 in a row, but then they won the last 2 against the Twins to sort of right the ship. They're 3.5 games over the Twins. The Twins probably have their sights ahead, but the Royals are right behind them heading into the big series we talked about. The Tigers have dropped 6 of 10, and that's probably just about the finish for them. And the White Sox now are just trying to avoid history, and they are way down below the 250 threshold of the New York Mets now at 235. They won 1 game, and then they lost 3 more, and just dreadful. Approaching 100 losses already, 28 and 91. Spectacularly awful for the Chicago White Sox. The Astros had a cool spell, but they've won 5 in a row now, and the Mariners have gotten hot too. Those teams dueling atop the American League West. Each team is only 7 games over 500, but 500 was good as of a week or so ago. Texas Rangers have finally fallen completely out of things by losing 7 out of 10, and the Angels and the Athletics just bringing up the rear as far as the West is concerned. In the National League, nobody's really playing great baseball right now, and what that has resulted in is some real intrigue here. The Phillies have dropped 6 of 10 and over a longer period have been pretty cold. Now, there's been a couple of hot teams in the National League, which has gotten them into the mix and solidly in the race for, well, just about everything. The Braves have been so bad for so long that a team that once was well over 20 games over 500 is now out of the playoffs if they were to start today, and actually just barely in after the Mets lost last night. But they're in a pitched battle for the last wild card, and nobody expected to see that. The Nationals have had a representative season, but that's been about it for them, and the Marlins bring up the rear. Disappointing season for them. Brewers continue to be a solid first-place team in the National League Central. The Cardinals, you just saw them. They split. They're not great. They're not bad. They had themselves in wild card position for a bit. They've fallen back now by losing 6 of their last 10 games. Cubs keep hanging around. They've won 4 in a row and 8 out of 10, so they're still viable and still in the race. We'll see the Reds a little bit later this week with the Kansas City Royals headed there. They are still dreaming at 4 games under 500, so they'll still have probably some incentive to still continue playing. Same with the Pirates, although time is drawing short for those 2 teams. Pirates have actually dropped 9 of their last 10 to fall 5 games under 500. The hot teams out west are the Diamondbacks and the Padres. They've both had great runs over a long period of time. They've won 16 of 19, 17 of 20, I believe, respectively, for the 2 teams. Each of them has won 8 of their last 10 games, and they've made it a race in the National League West somehow, although the Dodgers have kept them at bay by winning their last 3 games. So it's the Dodgers by 3.5, 3.5 over the Padres as well. The Giants had a good run, although they lost on Sunday, winners of 7 of their last 10, and they are in the wild card mix solidly. And the Rockies, one of only a handful of teams in baseball, as we've noted over the last few weeks, that are not playing baseball that's even anywhere near 500, although now we have 3 or 4 additional teams that seem to be on the outside looking in as any realistic playoff possibilities as well. The Olympics wound up on Sunday. The women's marathon was held. A former KU runner almost won a medal in the marathon. KU had a couple of 4th-place finishes as the games were winding down. It was a very, very successful Olympics, I think, for most people who were viewing. I focused mostly on the track, but of course watched a lot of the Olympic golf. I watched the women's golf on Sunday. Lydia Ko won that. And the Sunday night closing ceremonies, Sunday night in Paris, which was during the day here, apparently were spectacular. The opening and closing ceremonies don't do anything for me. I guess if you're a Tom Cruise fan, that would be cool. The women's basketball team for the United States won a gold medal and a tight one with the host country of France, and that evened up the gold medal count with China at 40 apiece. The U.S. won the most medals overall by quite a good margin, and they had a great performance in track. And of course, I think most people considered the Paris Games a tremendously successful entertainment. Certainly there was some controversies in the gymnastics. They're still battling out one thing for a U.S. gymnast. but the controversy was mostly at a lower level, and the competition stepped forward. The Olympics are certainly a mixed bag, and you can dig deep for some things that are not so great about it, but